Hello, Heat Seekers. It's the Heat Sheet. Hello and welcome to the Heat Sheet, your bi-quarterly, half-annually, half-arsed podcast all about the world of professional wrestling, where we break down the biggest news stories in tabloid fashion. I, as ever, am your host, Chris Jack, Editor-in-Chief of the Heat Sheet here, and as usual, I am joined by the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, the whatever you want to call them boys of the Heat Sheet, Steve Roach and Lewis McNaughton. Lads, it's been a fair few weeks, lads. How are you getting on? How you been enjoying your wrestling?
I'm just thinking, when was the last time we did one? All three of us?
Was it
1997.
Fucking hell.
Before I was born. I think it was Crown Jewel, was it just before that, maybe, something like that?
I think it might have been, aye. We did something about the Saudi show. But it has been a wee while.
Coming soon. We said we'd do a review, so aye, maybe next year.
Yeah, but going into 2025, we'll maybe kick things into overdrive and get at least one podcast out a quarter on that. But it's been quite a time for wrestling. AEW's had even more ups and downs and in the middles. WWE's been as hot as ever. TNA's pretty much cooled off, I think, from how it started 2024. And there's been all sorts of other stuff going on. Eric Bischoff's coming into NXT. What the fuck's that about? Like, it's just been a bizarre last wee while in wrestling. But the most immediate things, or the kind of the most relevant things that have been happening over the past few weeks are what we are going to smash out of the park on this week's Heat Sheet. We're going to break everything down. In fact, break it down just as Steve brings out his DX t-shirt there. Well timed. We are going to look at what's making the front pages, the back pages, and the gossip pages in the main on this week's Heat Sheet. And we are also going to have a wee... Is it a quiz? I think it is. We're going to have a game of wrestling darts anyway to round out the podcast this evening. But before we get back up into everything, how have you guys been absorbing things inside the square circle over the last few while since we last had the podcast?
I'll be brutally honest, I have tuned out a bit since the summer. Not that the wrestling's been shite then. I think it's because we've had such a really strong year. I think there was bound to be a bit of a lull period, and I think kind of September, October has been that. It's felt like it's taken a wee dip again. I think it has. It's felt like it's hot up again. I think the excitement of the War Games match on Saturday, I think that's geared us back up, especially with Punk returning. And AEW had, I'd say, a decent pay-per-view. Definitely not one of the best ones, but still a good, solid one at the weekend there with Full Gear. And also they've now just started the Continental Classic, so we're guaranteed at least a month's worth of banging matches coming up. So I think they're starting to heat up again. And of course, the festive period round the corner, so we're going to have some time off. So we're finally going to have at least an extra day or two to get cracking. We're watching some graps.
And how's wrestling been treating you, Lewis?
I think it's like Steve said, it's taken a bit of a dip in terms of it's always the moments that sort of gets you talking about it, doesn't it? And it seemed to have lacked moments. It's been ticking over like a good wrestling show does. And it's always got its hooks, but yeah, I think quite recently, with obviously Punk joining the War Games and it getting a bit closer to the sort of grand finale of the two bloodlines, it's producing a bit more, can't miss TV. And as it's coming to Netflix, they're ramping up a little bit more, getting the hype packages out for that. And yeah, I think it's mainly been the case that it's been somewhat missable, so people that don't have the time, like ourselves recently, it has been missable, so you've missed a lot of it and sort of caught up when you could. But yeah, I have been trying to keep us up as much as possible. It's a graft, it's a real fucking part-time job being a wrestling fan from the UK.
It can be like that. That's what I'm finding as well. I don't know if it's just, the older you get, the less time you can commit to things and whatnot. But I think that there's so much wrestling on just now as well. There's so much that can be catching your eye that it's hard to know what to kind of focus on. For the longest time, AEW has been my go-to, but even there's been very little that's been appealing to me about it. I know that the Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes storyline in SmackDown's been a massive thing in the WWE just now. I've not absorbed any of it at all. So this podcast for me anyway is to kind of get a gauge of how good wrestling is going to be and has been, I think, from you guys. So I'm depending on you guys to get me hard, so to speak, for Survivor Series and kind of kill me off after full gear. So usually what we do is I'd get the two of you to fight out to see who's going to make the front page with their stories. But I think we'll just announce now that Survivor Series is going to make our front page because it's the biggest wrestling show of the quarter, essentially, the most anticipated one. And we've touched on it just now. We've got Punk. Just pretty much a year and a couple of days after they made his triumphant return to WWE, he's been entered into this War Games match. So Steve, War Games and Survivor Series in general, how on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for it, and what are you expecting from it?
I think I'll go with 7, maybe just touching an 8. I'm excited like seeing Punk and obviously Heyman coming back. Heyman cut another classic Heyman promo when he made his return and came out with the red and black suit. Everybody noticed that was a callback to something. I can't quite remember what it was, but still it was really nice moment. So we've got the kind of everything coming full circle. So we've got the old school bloodline lineup in tow with Sammy and all, and now you've got Punk thrown in as well, and kind of realigning. So it seems with Heyman again. So there's a lot of nostalgia getting mixed in there. Of course, the big thing that this is going to lead to is this maybe going to lead to a big showdown between Punk and Roman, because inevitably the two egos are going to clash. They've already teased it straight away. Roman did a face-to-face, as if to say, all right, thank you for helping out my team, but bear in mind, I'm the big man here. And Punk, Punk being Punk, he ain't going to take that line down. So you're never going to get that kind of mixed in. The other factor is Seth. Is it possible maybe that is this going to lead to a heel turn? Because I think it was teased for a couple of weeks that he was going to be the fifth man, but instead it's going to be Punk, and that's going to obviously piss Seth off something fierce, because he obviously doesn't like Punk, and that's arguably the big money match. We've all been thinking that's going to lead to possibly the WrestleMania, I'd say night 1 main event. Could he interfere here and maybe cost the OG bloodline the match, and the new bloodline kind of takes the victory, because he might interfere with Punk, and obviously it's going to lead to two things. Punk obviously want to take revenge on Seth, but also Roman. Again, he's going to see it as yet again that wee prick backstab me again and cost me a major victory. So there's a lot of variables coming into it. And of course, I've not even mentioned yet The Rock, because he showed up at the end of, what was it, Bad Blood. That couldn't have been for nothing. So maybe he's going to pop his head in this one again. And if I'm not mistaken, he's filming the new Moana movie, and guess where the filming location is? Vancouver.
Ah. Is it no Hawaii?
So I heard anyway.
It's the magic of cinema there, Luce.
I think Vancouver's like the Canadian Hollywood. They've got a big studio there.
Yeah.
That a lot of big Disney productions have been used at before.
It's like they use Toronto quite a lot for London in TV shows and films and like that as well. But it's a good point. We've not heard from Doc since the end of Bad Blood. There's been very little reference to him, from what I'm aware of getting involved in war games, or there's been very few nods to him. But the fact that Roman's now back, get Punk involved in it, and Heyman being back as well, there's no reason why we shouldn't. Maybe not expect, but certainly, I wouldn't be surprised if it did turn up, especially after the surprise of all surprises at Survivor Series last year. Lewis, we spoke there about, Punk joining the OG bloodline. What do you think of the current Solo Sikoa-led bloodline, and do you think that it's too early for them to be bested by the OG one, especially after getting the win over Roman at the last pay-per-view? Do you think it's too early? Do you think this should be going on into WrestleMania season, or is this the full culmination of the bloodlines smooshing incestuous cocks with each other?
Hopefully, people are watching the YouTube version of that and not just listening. But yeah, no, I think the way their teams come together has been pretty organic, and you could say that maybe Bronson Reed's been shoehorned into it, but I don't think so, because his main goal for taking out Seth Rollins was because he had no issues with Seth Rollins. He just wanted to be in the main event. So why not go after one of the guys in the main event, take him out, leaves a spot for me. So he sees a spot in there, just like it makes complete common sense. And wrestling doesn't often make common sense in the real world. But yeah, if you want a spot at the top, if you see a spot open, go for it. And he's joined the bloodline, so why not? I think their teams, like I said, come together well. I think that Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa have gained a little bit more credibility over the last few months in matches. Obviously, they've had a reign with the tag titles. Solo's been a bit more dynamic and charismatic as well. He's seemed a bit more of a leader and a bit more, like I said, unlike just a stoic figure in there, he's become sort of a character of his own and not just Roman's family member or the Usos' younger brother. So I think, like I said, it has come together well. Whether it or not they should be beat, I think if you go man for man, in terms of popularity and what they've done, there's no way the OG Bloodline should lose. But the way they've set it up in terms of, you don't really know what's going to happen at the end of this. There's been a lot of pay-per-views recently where the match quality is brilliant, but you kind of know what's going to happen at the end. With this, like you say, it could be something with Punk and Roman. There could be something with Seth and Roman. There could be something with Seth and Punk. The Rock could come back. There could be something with Jay and Jimmy having issues. You never know. There could be Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens interference. Can you trust Sami Zayn? What's Paul Heyman going to do? There's a lot of ways they could go with this, and that's what sort of keeps you entertained and keeps you wanting to watch it, that unpredictability. So yeah, I do think it's maybe a little bit early to have the original Bloodline lose. I don't think it is the end of the story. You don't bring Jay back to the fold and have him all pally-pally with Jimmy 9 months after a blood feud just for the sake of one match. So I think there's going to be a culmination with Roman and Rock at WrestleMania, but there's also going to be a culmination of Bloodline v Bloodline. I think you're probably going to get something like a 4-on-4 without them, so you're probably going to get Jimmy, Jay, Sammy, and maybe someone else versus Jacob, Solo, and the Tongans as well. So I think they're going to both come to a climax at WrestleMania in whichever way they will, and hopefully we maybe see the back of the Bloodline, and we can sort of refer to it in the future when we want to. But I think it'll be the heels that win at Survivor Series, but like I said, no idea what's going to happen, so I'm all in for it.
Yeah, there's loads of wee things that can dovetail off it. The fact, as say, you're bound to think that at some point, if the new bloodline becomes successful, there's going to be splinters in there at some point. They're obviously very high in Jacob Fatu and Solo. So I mean that a really good kind of feud coming out of it as well. Plus, as we've touched on, the Punk and Roman seems to be something that's brewing there as well. The Bloodline are definitely dominating Survivor Series and the War Games match, but the rest of the card for Survivor Series, we've got the Women's War Games match, which is Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Naomi, Io Sky, and Bayley versus Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, and Candice LeRae. Again, more of a kind of hodgepodge of people, and that more your sort of traditional Survivor Series type team on there. But again, there's a good bit of intrigue involved in that, especially with Jade Cargill being injured and being taken out of that. I think that is a legit injury as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a neck injury.
A legit thing. So best wishes to Jade Cargill there. But I mean, no, it's a very, very strong face team on there. Certainly, like Rhea Ripley and Nia Jax having a face-off will be pretty decent in there. Tiffany Stratton and Bianca Belair, you're going to have a lot of athleticism on there.
The women's one always feels like it's like your old school type Survivor Series. It's just a bunch of baby faces and heels flung together and just told to have at it. There's no real storyline going in it, is there?
There's obviously you've got Rhea and Liv carrying on their stuff there. The one outlier that I'm looking at there is Candice LeRae. Like she seems to be the kind of the odd one out in terms of she's not a former champion. She's not been really involved in the Judgment Day and Rhea Ripley stuff. She's kind of footered about in the tag division a wee bit, but she's not. I know that she's been involved in the Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton stuff over the last while, but
she was the first women's speed champion, i.e. or people like to call it the creative has nothing for you belt.
Aye. But that it's good. I mean, I'd imagine that Candice is going to be like the first one out. Oh no! In fact, no, it's War Games, isn't it? It's War Games, so it's anything goes.
Aye.
So I'd imagine we're getting a face victory in that one because a loss there is going to do a lot of damage to Rhea, Bianca, and Bayley especially. So you'd be hoping that that's going to be a face win. I don't know if Tiffany Stratton is she. Could there be potential for a Money in the Bank cash in during that at all? That's the only thing I can see that would maybe elevate that is at the end of the match if she does something there to cash in and live. Or
I see it 100% happening. One of the two. They don't have. I don't think they have both champions and Tiffany Stratton there for no reason. She could walk out with. There is a world where she walks out with both belts, by stacking them on top of each other or something like that. So that just adds another element to it.
Who this is obviously petty and ill-informed, like off the ball, but who is the other women's champion just now? It's Liv and it's.
Nia.
Oh, so it is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because Tiffany's been threatening to cash in on her.
I keep forgetting Nia's a champion. I still think it's Bayley.
I know, it's been fairly unmemorable.
Aye. But again, that kind of takes us on to the next thing. I completely forgot that Gunther was the heavyweight champion as well, and he's taking on Damian Priest in a singles match. I saw a bit of their promo on Raw the other night there. I wasn't got into it at all.
Aye, Gunther's winning because Priest put him through the table in Raw Monday night, and I just thought that, obviously Gunther's winning because the babyface is going to look battered and beaten before the pay-per-view if they're going to win it. Drop this, just the general rules of wrestling.
Yeah.
I think so. Maybe Finn could possibly screw him again, maybe.
Yeah, because
feel like that's been done, or Dom, possibly.
There's definitely more Judgment Day, Damien Priest, Tom Foolery that needs to be had. But again, they're probably what I would say that they'll have Gunter go over clean against Priest just to keep him dominant. I don't think it needs the interference. So I think Gunter. I would say Gunter's probably going to go over clean in that one. Probably what's going to be the best match of the night, or certainly the hardest hitting of the night, is going to be Braun Breaker versus Sheamus versus Ludwig Kaiser. Do we see Sheamus coming out of that with the Intercontinental title for the very first time, or is Braun keeping the belt a wee bit longer?
I think Braun's retaining.
Agreed.
I think if Sheamus is going to win it, that'll be a WrestleMania moment, because that feels like they've been teasing that for like going on 3 years now. Sheamus finally doing the Grand Slam.
Yeah, it's been a while coming.
Aye.
Is Ludwig Kaiser, is he a credible third man in this triple threat?
Yeah, I think he's always been pretty underlooked when he's been in Imperium and with Gunther and everything. I think there's always been, even within probably a year and a half, there's been plenty of time where he's been ready to sort of go out by himself and sort of make an impact in a singles run. He's really good in the ring. Petty and ill-informed here. I don't know how long he's been in the US. In terms of maybe it not even being his first language, he's really good on the mic as well. He's shagging Tiffany Stratton. There's no much that could fucking go wrong for him at the moment.
Winning at life. Did I read somewhere as well that is that the reason that your other fella for Imperium has been buried, because he was trying to fire into Tiffany Stratton as well?
Didn't blame him, like, worth a go.
That's why the reason that they buried him is because he was trying to do the dirty on Kaiser, and that's why he got jobbed out to Apollo Crews in like 3 seconds or whatever it was.
It's true. So I've heard. That's what Big Dave Nelson's saying, so it must be true.
It must be true. And then the other...
about to have a divorce.
Is he?
Partner. Aye.
Probably. How's he get time to have a wife anyway? Like, we still got to talk about wrestling once a quarter. Yeah, and it's all he talks about.
Aye.
So I don't know how he's got much life elsewhere. The other match on the card, again, WWE following this formula of having no more than 5 matches on the card at the minute. LA Knight versus Shinsuke Nakamura for the United States Championship. I was quite pleased to see Shinsuke come back, because he seems to have been in catering for quite a while, but this looks like the most stick-on LA Knight victory that I can think of.
It's the same with any Nakamura match, isn't it? Like pardon the pun, missed opportunity after missed opportunity, just by giving him like I feel like that's the way Damian Priest's going as well at the moment. It's just, we need to make our babyface or our champion look strong. Who goes in with him? Baron Corbin, Damian Priest, Shinsuke Nakamura, dependables. So yeah, this is genuinely like the one criticism I have over WWE. How do you have 5 matches on a card, which is already slightly pissing me off that it's 5 matches every single pay-per-view, and you're still having throwaway matches? It's what's the point of having that on the card? You've got over a month to build probably 6 or 7 good matches. You've got Cody and KO sitting on the bench for this. You've got the number one thing that's sort of pissed me off about it is you've got Karrion Kross and the AOP and everything against the Wyatt family, the Wyatt Six, and that is perfect for a War Games match. You've thrown the women in to get the women on the card to be nice to women. Like, it's the most clear cut. It's almost quite sexist in itself. Like when
That's
they
quite
take women in,
patronising booking.
it
It's
is show them
very,
in, like throw them in when it
man,
doesn't make sense. You know, it's like having
I,
it. Yeah,
it's
what's it?
it's pandering almost. It's
Mm-hmm.
borders on virtue signalling. It's like, oh look, we're doing a women's war games match as well as a men's match, so it's like try to say look how much we believe in equality. Well, no, like if you really truly care about the women's division as much as you say you do, you would actually book a meaningful match, like one that's had a long storyline between two of the hottest stars on the roster right now. Like, why not just do Tiffany versus Nia now? You know,
Yeah.
I know I like you could build it like Nia wants Tiffany to take her shot now, kind of thing, or something like that, or do a blow off of Rhea and Liv, maybe a steel cage match, something like that.
There's definitely like more they could have done with the women on there, and I think a big part of it comes down to the how good the old NXT War Games women's matches were.
Aye.
Because I think Io Sky has been in like every one of them. I think I read
That was
that.
kind of where she kind of made her
I
mark, sort of thing.
jumping off the cage with the bin in her teeth.
Aye.
Remember that?
Hopefully they have something creative this time, you know, and it's not just right. We need a spot for this. Oh, stick the bin on her. But this time, how about we make the bin gold? You know, like,
Two
Triple H.
bins, bin inside the bin.
But Triple H is better than that. You know, like it's like I said, the War Games match has to happen. You know, but make there be a reason. You know, there's Hell in a Cell stopped being a pay per view because we don't want there to be a need for a Hell in a Cell. Like we've said before, it's like two guys, blood feud, let's put them in Hell in a Cell. Not Hell in a Cell, let's find two guys. And you know, not War Games, let's find 10 people. You know, TLC, let's find two people. You know, so it's Wyatt family versus the Cross faction. It's put them in War Games, you know. They're spooky as fuck.
The final testament, isn't it?
Final testament, yeah. They're spooky as fuck. I don't want to be in there, the Miz says, you know. I didn't want to be in there, Akam says, Razar says, or they go, fuck it, bring them on, you know. R-Truth getting himself involved by accident, you know, how's he ended up in the cage? Like, shit like that. There's storylines that go, right, we've took them from behind with steel chairs, we've done this, we've done everything, confine us to War Games, you know, like...
And that's the thing as well, especially with that faction. Like, with Cross and the AOP, you've got a faction there that they've really struggled as individuals or as AOP on the main roster. If you put them in that kind of War Games match where it is brutal, it is violent, you're turning that up a notch on them. You're making people care about them.
Yeah, they did it in NXT, I'm sure. They had a War Games match, and probably the best match I've had. Like, that sort of... I'm not 100% sure, don't quote me on it, but the hardcore matches they have, you've seen it at WrestleMania and everything as well. Like, they show up in these matches, and it's just that little bit of credibility that Cross and them need that they're missing out on, once again.
Do you know what I've really liked as well? I've seen a few. I've not listened or watched the full things, but I've seen a few clips of Chris Van Vliet and Karrion Kross chatting, and he seems like a real dude. Like, he seems like a sound guy. He's a great talker. He's got loads of great stories, and you just wonder what it is, why he's not connecting. You know, like, I don't know if it's maybe just the character that they're having him portray, but as you know, as shoot Karrion Kross, his real name or whatever. Like, he seems like a dead on guy. He seems like he's a guy.
He seems like a genuine pro as well, Chris. I think that's why WWE keep giving him chances. I get that, like Damien Priest. I think that I've heard that the reason why he's so popular is just because he's like the ultimate pro. He's like the, he's a worker. He's never once like spoke out against it, and like, if you give him in, he'll run away mile with it. And that's why he's been rewarded with this sort of main event push this year. I'd imagine that's what Karrion Kross has got his eye on. It's like, if I replicate him, and if I keep doing as the company says, grinding, you know, taking everything on the chin, soon I'll be rewarded with that, because they obviously do see a talent in him, and if he's that old school WWE type talent, big, strong, can be adaptable as a sort of heel and baby face. So, he's got worth there, and I think sooner or later something is finally going to meet in the middle for him.
And it's happened as well. It's like if you watch every top 10 failed gimmicks or top 10 underutilized gimmicks at the top or in the top three every single time, you've got Sean O'Hare of the sort of devil's advocate gimmick, and that's basically what Karrion Kross is pulling from. He's going up to people and going, I wouldn't really take that shit. You know what I mean? Like, you could do this by yourself. He's the modern day Sean O'Hare, and why they're not capitalising on that when they can is, like you said, he's got everything, and yeah, he's the promo videos he drops. It's like they give you a fucking centimeter and you take a mile with it. He's making his mark on social media with the 2-3 minute videos, and everything he does is gold. Like, they've tried to bury him like fuck with these gimmicks sometimes, and yeah, he plugs along, and I think he's well deserving of something soon.
Well, maybe by this time next year, Karrion Kross will be one of the main event hitters going into Survivor Series. But this year it's all about Roman and his dysfunctional family. So the headline that we're going to go with for this week's front page is Survivor Series 2024, there will be bloodline... ... I'm going to go with that. Now, back page. Just like we have previewed Survivor Series, we're going to use the back page section to have a bit of a review and chat about AEW Full Gear and just kind of AEW in general and what we see, because I think this is probably, like, for the wrestling purist, this is probably the most exciting time of year for AEW fans, as the Continental Classic, the C2, has now got up and running. But before those matches kicked off in Dynamite last night, we had Full Gear at the weekend. Lewis, did you see much or take much notice of what was going on at Full Gear at all?
Yeah, I caught a little bit of it. Yeah, but I don't know. I wasn't overly impressed. Like, they have a plethora of matches, but it is a lot of filler at points. There's Mariah May, who's got a pretty underwhelming title reign. John Moxley and his tribe, just the Death Riders, seem to lack any real background of what's going on. They've not really given a massive story into what's going on. They say that they don't really like the way it's going, and they don't like the way it's changing, but it's what I don't get is they're going for guys like Darby Allin and everyone who were originals with him. They were there before John Moxley was even there. They were there at the start. So why is he not going for, sort of the new breed? But the best thing I liked about it was, and it's ridiculous and it's fucking cringe as fuck, but that Costco guy's match was genius. And having seen some videos, they've got the My Sacrifice in the background by Creed and everything, making it bigger than WrestleMania 17, getting the wee Rizzler in the ring. That was the funnest part of the show for me. Obviously,
that was the pre-show as well, wasn't it? That wasn't even the main bit.
Obviously, I'm not in, in complete watching mode of AEW, but I've seen a few clips, and like they do what they can with what they've got, but like I say with this every time, they need to simple it down. Stick to a few simple storylines, good v bad, and steady the ship again. But maybe Steve will be able to elaborate on what I've missed.
Well, I was going to say, when you were mentioning about you didn't really understand Moxley's kind of raison d'etre, for want of a better French term, I could see a kind of a funny look in Steve's face. I think he maybe disagrees with you a wee bit in that.
Well, I think I mean, you say you're not understanding why they're going to when he's going for Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin. Well, I think it's pretty obvious. He's seen those two as the one that's everything that's wrong because he actually admires the two of them. Darby especially. He was almost like Darby was almost his wee brother in the early AEW days, and yet Darby hasn't changed. He's still the same, crazy risk taker that he was 5 years ago. Whereas Orange Cassidy is a guy, he sees that as a guy that still doesn't take it seriously. We also saw it briefly with Private Party. There was those two guys that famously got the victory over the Young Bucks on the second ever Dynamite, and what did they do with it? They basically acted like dafties for 5 years, but let the fire under their arse because now they're tag team champions. So I think Mox, the character Moxie's playing, I feel, is that he's almost like what the AEW naysayers are criticising AEW for. It's like almost like they've listened to them and they've used the next WWE guy as in a storyline for it. He's kind of looked around and he saw nothing but disappointment and disgust. He sees all these guys that when he joined the company thought, my God, we've got the greatest roster in the history of wrestling, and we're going to have the greatest wrestling brand in the world, and yet that hasn't happened, and it pisses him off. So to set an example, he first betrayed his best friend Bryan Danielson, nearly fucking killed him, and he used that as his marker and said, by the way, I loved him, and look what I've just done to him. Now think what I'm going to do to you.
Does that make him? Does that sort of not really babyface him a little bit though, or does it make him an anti-hero? Is that what they seem to be going for?
I think that's what the anti-hero is, because there is some when he's coming out, you do hear some people still cheering him.
Yeah,
and I think that's maybe the guys that, like me, still love AEW, still watch it, but I'm getting really frustrated at the lack of progress of it, I don't like everything about this Moxley storyline, but I like that they're taken in a good direction, and they're building him up as this psycho heel, and the longer it goes on, the bigger the pop's going to be when somebody finally gets that title off him. Who knows what it's going to be? Could it be Darby? Could it be Ospreay? Swerve would be my pick, but maybe it needs to be a more pure babyface than that.
Well, I think at the end of Full Gear, again, there was a lot went on, but the introduction of Hangman trying to help Christian cash in before Jay White got involved. I think that Hangman is an interesting wrinkle in this story. Obviously, he's an original, but he's going through a lot of inner turmoil. He's on a bit of a losing streak. He lost to Jay White on the show as well in a very, very good match. And, he's a former champion as well, so he's got a credible case to build, I suppose, in getting involved in this storyline. But you've got to think that Darby, the way that the show ended with Darby Allin trying to kill himself by ramming the Death Rider's truck with his own car, you've got to think that he's got to be the one. They've spoken for ages about how he's probably the most viable pillar that hasn't achieved anything significant yet, apart from the TNT title. In fact, he was tag team champion as well, so I'm talking a lot of shit there. But the fact that Moxley took his guaranteed championship shot away from him as well to win that. It's all pointing towards Darby. Darby's the one that you could see taking all the ultra violence off the Death Riders and still coming out the other end of it. We've seen what he did to Danielson, the way that they went after Orange Cassidy, what they did to Chuck Taylor, all the sadistic stuff that's gone on in the build over the last wee while. Darby Allin's death proof. So he's the only one that realistically, canonly, whatever that is,
He's the one that can defy all that punishment.
It's
the
biggest indicator, isn't it? And there's so much long-term storytelling. Like I said earlier, Moxley kind of big brothered Darby back in the day when they first kind of crossed paths. So that's what's all there. That ending that pay-per-view, by the way, was it just me? Did I feel like it was booked by AI? It just looks so random. Like I'm going, the fuck's going here? Hangman, now Christian Cage. They're about to attack Moxley, but hang on, they're both heels. What the fuck's going on here? It's just see stuff like that is what I'm talking about. It frustrates me because they have got a great storyline here, but why are they bringing in Hangman and Christian Cage? Like, Christian Cage kind of makes sense. He's got that guaranteed title shot, so that kind of makes sense. But it's getting in the way of it all. Like, just let Switchblade and Hangman have their own feud. In Christian Cage, I'm not right in saying he had his own storyline going on with Hook, and the reveal that it was him in Kill Switch attacked Taz and the partner, and that's been left unresolved, and yet they just swing them into this storyline. It's just, this is the things with AEW, like they come up with great concepts, but the execution is just so poor sometimes.
And I think the history of that as well means that folk aren't arsed when it happens either. I think going back as far as exploding barbed wire deathmatch, the damp squib that was, that's kind of set the precedent. It's like AEW build all these things up, the payoff's rubbish, but it's like, nah, there's no, because that it's going to keep on happening, or because history suggests it's going to keep on happening, people aren't getting worked up about it anymore. People aren't bothered. They're just like, this is what AEW does. I think that is a big factor in a bit of the malaise that's around it. But what there wasn't any malaise around was Ospreay against Kyle Fletcher on the Full Gear card. 100 miles an hour from minute one to the final minute of that. And Fletcher, I don't think it's controversial saying this, Fletcher at this point has out ricocheted Rikishi. Yeah. And that Rikishi came in at All In. Everyone was expecting him to be the one to, have these banger matches against Will Ospreay and be the one that is going to set AEW on fire again. It's Kyle Fletcher all the way. Like, yep. He's him to steal Trick Williams. Oh, was that Carmelo Hayes?
Carmelo,
yeah. Like, for AEW, Kyle Fletcher's him, especially off the back of that showing against Ospreay.
Yeah, I think he's definitely, I think the big winner of Full Gear. I think it's, and then of course he's now going to be in the Continental Classic as well, so he's going to have another couple of big victories coming his way as well. And of course there's that big, they've got Grand Slam in Australia coming in February,
which they've downgraded.
Yeah, because
they've downgraded the stadium because there's not as big interest in it as that, and that's probably a sobering thing for Tony Khan as well. And the fact that he's acknowledged it, hopefully it means that in 2025 he'll start booking smaller arenas for Dynamite.
Yeah,
keep the big ones for the pay-per-views, and reset that way.
Aye. I think it needed to happen. I think Tony Khan was in need of a reality check when it comes to arenas. I think he needed to do that. I hope that hell by July, where they've got all in booked for the Cowboy Stadium, that they've built up a big enough interest to keep that there as well.
Because you saw how big that place is, not just with WrestleMania a couple of years back, but with the Logan Paul Mike Tyson fight as well. Cowboy Stadium, like that's a big room to fill.
Right, so it's 100,000 in it. I think it's the biggest stadium in the Western world or something.
There was 70 at the Paul Tyson fight, just over 70.
So like if you said they would need to touch those numbers just to look respectable.
No, it's
I'm hoping. I mean, I've hoped all 2024 that something would light a fire back under the AEW, but it's yet to be the case. Hoping 2025 is going to be the year, but they are still putting on, probably the best matches in terms of moments and ring skill, and to kind of keep us on track with with this being the back page for the best matches are the Osprey Fletcher one was an amazing feat of agility and athleticism. And there was one spot in particular, Lewis, that I want to get your opinion on. We saw on SmackDown a few weeks ago the pile driver on Randy Orton. At Full Gear, we saw Kyle Fletcher pile driver the Osprey onto the steps off of the ring apron, and he finished the match. Whereas Randy Orton got a straightforward pile driver on the mat and got carted out of there. Do you think, what based on modern wrestling, which do you prefer? Do you prefer the pile driver to be a potential career-ending move, or do you think that is something that modern wrestlers should be able to recover from pretty quickly?
No, it's definitely using pure logic better to do it the way that Kevin Owens and Randy Orton did it. Purely because if that move doesn't take you out, what makes your finisher more devastating than that? It's the thing is as well. It's just pure psychology. Like WWE doesn't do it perfect either. You see DDTs that look more devastating than some finishers. You're thinking AEW as well. You're looking at Mercedes Moné probably does 7 or 8 moves in the match that looks better than a finisher. It's all around the wrestling world. At least WWE are understanding that somewhere. They've used Randy Orton's bad back and neck and everything as a thing, but the pile driver and the burning hammer and Brainbusters, obviously the one that Kyle Fletcher used to end the match, those should be your devastating banned moves. It's only pulled out once every year or so by someone that's fairly unhinged or maybe a little bit desperate. But a pile driver onto the steps is just a little bit. One, it doesn't really add anything for the match if it doesn't directly finish it. And it's, like, as far as I know, it's not in Kyle Fletcher's moveset, a tombstone, or it's not a finisher, as to say. So why is it being pulled out at all? Will Ospreay is a good seller and he's a fairly healthy human, but that move risks a fair bit of damage. So I'd rather moves like I heard on a podcast before. You bring someone in, you bring Bobby Lashley in, he does the Hurt Lock, takes 95% of the roster out with the Hurt Lock. Then one guy manages to break out of it and counter it, and it's the biggest pop you've had. I think maybe Paul Heyman that said that.
Well, it's like the One-Winged Angel as well. That's such a protected move, and your big stars should have those protected moves. Because it builds to the mystique, and as you say, it builds up. When someone eventually does get out of it, that it's a massive thing. Across the rest of the Full Gear card, Steve, were there any other matches that stuck out to you? I know I'd mentioned earlier Hangman against Jay White. It was really good. Yeah. There was a lot of ankle work for both men in that one that helped tell the story. But was there anything else?
That was a match with good psychology was used. As good as Fletcher and Ospreay was, there wasn't much psychology, and that was with Hangman and Switchblade. There was. I really liked Lashley versus Swerve, actually. I thought that was like a good old brawl. Like, most of it was actually outside the ring. I really liked that. Lashley looking, like an absolute powerhouse, an absolute big horse, a big immovable logic, exactly how he should be. I also I might surprise you. I actually also like Mercedes Moné against Chris Statlander. I
I've
thought
not
that is,
I've not seen it back, but I have heard that it was probably Mercedes'
easily.
best showing
Yeah.
since coming in.
100 times better than a match with Britt Baker at Wembley. Way better. And I think, I'm not going to say she's turned the corner, but she's really, it seems like she's got finally getting her groove back, at least, and she's embracing actually the hate that she gets from AEW and from the AEW faithful, and she's working it really well. And what else was there? There was, if there was a disappointment match, I'm going to actually say Garcia and Jack Perry. Again, not bad, but it was built towards Garcia getting this big heroic title win, and I've got to be honest, by the end of it, I didn't really care.
I was scrubbing through it to get to the Moxley match, and it seemed like a very long match for that point in the card. Going by the scrum, I think it was maybe about 16, 17 minutes, something like that.
But it's another problem AEW have still got. Too much in too many pay-per-views, cramming it with too many matches. Like Lewis mentioned earlier how I know he does with WWE only doing 5 matches and yet some it seems filler. With AEW it's still too much. They need to reduce it to I think 7, tops 8, definitely not more than that. I mean what pisses me off is they've got 2 ongoing, actually 3 weekly TV shows where nothing happens. Why not have made Garcia and Perry a main event of a collision or a dynamite and have that? I mean, I guarantee you Garcia's title run would have went way more because there was a lot less to compete against on the night.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement. I think there needs to be a happy medium found. Five's too little, 74's too many. They need to get it. They need to kind of condense that down in. But something that is going to give us quite a lot of matches, and hopefully the quality of them is worthy of that, is the C2, the Continental Classic. It started on Dynamite last night. Steve, who's your picks for the final at World's End?
Well, I'm just glad that Omega hasn't came back in time for it because it'd have been perfect for him and Okada to finally have one more go around for old time's sake, but sadly it's not happening. It's hard to look past Ospreay, isn't it? Because he's got the well, first of all, he's going to meet his old mentor Okada eventually, and then he's going to obviously want to have his rematch with Fletcher, and it's just built for him, isn't it? It's tournament wrestling. He won 2 Best of Super Juniors back in New Japan. He was runner up twice in the G1, so it's just all kind of built with him. And AEW's already referenced all that. They've referenced Okada's 4 G1s. Ricochet, he's won the Super Juniors. It's all guys that actually have past experience with tournaments. Shelton Benjamin, I was shocked to find out he had 3 G1s before, and he was actually running up in one of them. I was shocked to learn that. But then again, you forget, he was in Japan for like 5 years during his exodus away from.
And he's currently top of the Blue League after his victory over Mark Briscoe last night.
Yeah.
So like the Blue League, you've got Okada, Kyle Fletcher, Danny Garcia, Mark Briscoe, Shelton Benjamin, and the Beast Mortos. And in the Gold League, you've got Darby Allin, Claudio Castagnoli, Will Ospreay, Ricochet, Brody King, and Juice Robinson. And that's the fun of the Continental Classic for me. You've got established names. You've got guys that are maybe there to take the pins, but you've got really interesting matchups there. I mean, looking at that Gold League, Darby against Will Ospreay is going to be mental. It's going to be a mental match. Juice Robinson just being involved in that at all, I'd imagine he'll be the one that kind of takes a lot of
he'll be was it Jay Lethal? He came out with 0 points, so I'd imagine sadly that's Juice.
Yep. I mean, you've got Brody King against Darby Allin in there again. They've had a couple of deals. They were against each other last year as well.
Happened.
Well, they had that last night.
Oh, did they do that last night? Yeah.
Darby won it. It was.
Brody King.
It's hinting towards a Brody babyface turn because Claudio after the match came out and now what am I saying? No, talk shite. Brody won it.
Brody
Yeah.
beat him.
But then because Claudio came out, he was going to punish Darby for his attempt at trying to fucking kill him and the Death Riders. But Brody came back in the ring and says, "Get the fuck out." And then it's going to be him and Claudio next week. And I think that's a hint of maybe a babyface turn for Brody because we hear that I think it's been done quietly, but Malakai's leaving. So I think the House of Black is kaput.
Well, there's been a lot of kind of an innuendo about that. But what I was saying there, if Brody's getting involved in Darby's behalf against Claudio, then a trio's Death Riders against House of Black could be pretty tasty. Could be pretty tasty. And then on the other side of things, obviously, like looking at that, Mark Briscoe got beat last night. Do you see him having an Eddie Kingston style run this year's? The kind of the underdog, the fan favourite against guys that are maybe a lot more fancied. Maybe loses the first couple, but then has a good run towards the end of the bracket.
I think that's more likely going to be Darby.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Darby's like Darby as ever he's the Walking Dead, and yet he still comes back and survives.
What about you, Lewis? Who are your picks for the C2 final?
I think it's two come out of it. The top two come out of it into semi-finals against the other side. Is that how it works?
No, it's the top two of each bracket have a final, and then the two winners of each. It works like the NBA. The winner of the West meets the winner of the East.
Aye, kind of like.
Yeah, I think there is a strong possibility for Shelton Benjamin to go through and do the sort of the show what he can do. But I think the way that Kyle Fletcher's momentum is going, I would have Kyle Fletcher in the final, 1000%. And on looking at anyone else who could potentially be in there, I think you've got Claudio in there for the match quality. He can put on matches. I don't personally think he's going to be there till the end unless the Death Riders need a little lift. But I agree that if I was to pick, I'd say your eventual winner probably either Darby Allin or Kyle Fletcher, if I had to put my money on it.
Who is the Continental Champion now? Is it Okada?
It's Okada, aye. Is
it same rules as last year? If Okada loses any match during this, that's him lost the title. Because remember Eddie Kingston was caught about 90 belts last year.
I'm sure they covered it last night. I think Okada, if he gets pinned during the tournament, he doesn't immediately lose the title. He can only lose it if he can no longer possibly win the tournament.
Aye, if he doesn't qualify.
Aye.
Cool. Well, it's exciting stuff in the C2 anyway. It'll be good to see how that unravels on the lead up to World's End. But as a headline to round out this section of the heat sheet, the back page headline is going to be AEW, get your arse in full gear. just to do that. Now, what we'll do is we'll quickly run through any gossip that you guys have for page 3 so we can get this game of darts done to round out the podcast. Is there anything on the horizon, on the dirt sheets, on X or anything like that you guys have seen that you think could be quite titillating for the listeners to wrap their noggins around?
I'll quickly talk about like you mentioned the Chris Van Vliet podcast earlier. I listen to that every week. There's 2 interviews he does, and his latest one was with Ricky Starks.
Yes.
Maybe a name you've not heard for a while. He's anything but diplomatic in his speaking terms. He doesn't beat around the bush very much. He'll tell you how it is, and he's basically said that he's fine, he's healthy, he's just not being used. Tony Khan's not using one of the
WWE. Fuck's sake, Tony.
I know he's had shit for the last year. Whether he's been punished for the Edge comment, whether he's been punished for being with Cody Rhodes at the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, he doesn't think he is. But I think that's maybe him just saving his arse, not wanting to fuck off Tony Khan. but he's in the prime of his career. I thought that Ricky Starks was about 28. He's not. He's mid-30s. He's.
I didn't think he was as old as that.
I'm sure he's.
I thought I wouldn't have put him above 32.
I think he's 34.
Let's consult the old Google machine here.
Sad
Ricky's
that because he's a
34,
bona fide
yep.
talent. Aye.
Yeah, he's
That's
34.
sad, man.
And it's a year where he's been with Big Bill, and he didn't need to be with Big Bill. He went into AEW 4 years ago against Cody Rhodes in a match where he didn't look out of place at all. I'm 99% sure he was the NWA champion when he faced Cody Rhodes. He was already at the top of even potentially the most prestigious title in the history of wrestling, the NWA title he had. And because of a petty comment or because of having friends, Tony Khan's just decided to fuck him off. And
It's sad, and it's what
It's
pisses me
sad,
off is like
yeah.
it's all this shite like AEW was set up to be the counter to WWE. For years we criticised WWE how they used talent and even punished them almost for for speaking out
Right,
things,
sure.
and then Tony Khan's just doing the exact same stuff, and like Jack Perry, I know he gets somewhat of a suspension after the whole CM Punk fiasco, but ultimately he got rewarded when he came back. He became the TNT champion.
Well, here he is. He's
Yeah.
one of the main
Aye.
stars now. So what has Ricky Starks done? Has he held fucking Sadiq Khan hostage backstage somewhere and
The London
pissed
Mayor.
all over him or something? It's like, I know, like I have no idea what he's done that's so bad that you take probably one of the best talents in the world, and just decide, nah, no for me.
I think it's probably a combination of things. I think the Edge stuff definitely didn't help. He was probably like at the time of Punk leaving. It was supposed to be Punk v Starks at All Out.
Aye.
So he's probably had a chip in his shoulder, but missing out on that because that would have been the biggest match of his career by far. He then went through everything with Jericho. Or was that beforehand? But basically, he didn't get the rub in the Jericho feud that he had. He was tag team champion with Big Bill, but that then all fell apart as well. So there's been I would say he's maybe voiced his displeasure at the Punk stuff and at the Jericho stuff. Then when the Edge stuffs came about, that's exacerbated things as well. And he's probably had some kind of blow up with TK as a result of that, I would say. But it's a shame because he's obviously very talented, and as I say, he should have been on a higher trajectory than what he is. If he'd got that Punk match, he's probably main eventing the now. If he'd came out of the Jericho vortex a bit better, that maybe done something for him as well. So I'd say it's probably a combination of those three that's kind of held him back or has contributed to him not being used. What about yourself, Steve? Any other gossip that you can think of that?
I'll keep it brief. There was that announcement last week. Tony Storm announces she's quit the AEW and retired from wrestling. But the actual, if you read the words she did, it just screams kayfabe because it was all in character. And I'm just thinking, is that leading possibly to the Australia show? Because they need to do something big here to get that, to pump some life into it. So I'm thinking, could they maybe do something where Mariah's still champ and they're building up for, or maybe like she clears out the division and the only thing left for her is to go around again with Tony, but they can build up in a way where Tony doesn't is only a maybe for showing up, and they build up till the point where it's go time. Mariah's waiting in the ring, and if Tony doesn't appear in say 30 seconds time, the match is forfeit, and then that's when the music plays, and out she comes, and she gets the monster pop from the home crowd.
I think it's maybe like I could see it maybe being the death of timeless Tony Storm. I could see that maybe because obviously that whole thing factored around the All About Eve storyline with Mariah May. So maybe we're seeing the death of timeless Tony Storm and the resurrection of just badass Tony Storm, really.
Aye.
The Motley Crue listening.
Aye, the 80s rocker, Tony Storm.
Yeah. But those are two good picks for that. So the headline for page 3 is going to be Starks and Tony's Storm in a Teacup, as we'll go with for that. Right, now to the main event, Game of Darts. Game of Darts. If you've listened to this podcast before or our former dalliances on Wrestling Daft, you'll have known that we occasionally play darts where we've to guess the number of appearances a wrestler has made at a particular event, and you need to get down from a certain number to a finish. Now, with it being Survivor Series this weekend, we're going to go with Survivor Series darts for this one. So, you're going to start on 51. So you're going to start on 51, and you're going to have to work your way down by guessing wrestlers who have had the most Survivor Series appearances until you can work your way down to a full finish. So, Steve, because you are on my left on the screen, the way I'm looking at this, you get to have the first pick. Now, the information is... In fact, I'm not going to give where the information source is just yet because you'll jump on there and start cheating. So, yeah, we'll start with you, Steve. Give me a wrestler who you think has had quite a lot of Survivor Series matches.
Well, he's actually known as Mr. Survivor Series. It's Randy Orton.
Randy Orton has 16. So that takes you down...
I thought it'd be 20.
No. Randy Orton has 16 Survivor Series matches with a 10-6 record on there. So that takes you down to 40. Lewis, who are you going to chuck your first arrow at?
I've got two answers, but I'm going to hopefully take some low-hanging fruit here and say The Undertaker.
Undertaker, the most appearances at Survivor Series with 18. So that takes you down to
33.
In fact, my maths is awful. That takes you down to 33. What's 51 take away 16? Why have I written 40? It is
35.
35. My maths is absolutely shocking. This is why I don't work in sales, lads. Right, Steve, back to you. Up to the Rocky.
The Miz. He's always good for these.
The Miz, a solid 10 appearances at Survivor Series, which is quite low, actually, thinking of The Miz. He has a 3-7 record, so 3 victories, 7 losses. And just to say, Undertaker, 13-5 was his record. Right, Lewis.
I've got two in my head. I know one guy loves a Survivor Series match, and I know one guy that loves just being in WWE. So I'm going to go for the guy that loves being in WWE, and I'll say John Cena.
John Cena, 11. 11 takes you down to 22. Cena with a 9-2 record in the Thanksgiving specials. Steve, 25. Who is going to bring you down a wee bit more? At this stage, there's no one that you can get straight out on, but that will probably come in the next couple of shots.
One of us is going to say him, so Triple H.
Bastard.
Triple H, unlucky for some, but not for you, Steve. He's 13, which takes you down to 12. And he's got a 4-8-1 record on there.
I
don't know. I don't know. It's not in Survivor Series matches. It's just Survivor Series appearances, on the show.
I'm trying to think what that could be though. That draw.
Well, I mean, there's someone else on here that's 8-7-2, and there's another somebody that's got a 1 on their record. In fact, there's another 2 I can see they've got ones in their record. So yeah, that's a bit odd. Right, Lewis, you're on 22. You could take out. There's a couple of big hitters that haven't been hit yet. They could take out and take you down to the single digits.
I'm hoping that one of them is Kane.
Motherfucker.
Yes, indeed. Kane with an 8-7-2 record. He has 17 matches, which takes you right all the way down to 5. So you are now in the position where you could get out. Steve, so you're on 12. So there's quite a few. In fact, there's only one 12 appearance makers on here.
And
So
I bet you it's...
if you were to get this one, I'd be quite surprised, but it would give you a monumental win.
I think I know it. Dolph Ziggler.
Unfortunately not, but you're not far off. Nick Nemeth, as he's listed on this website, has 11, so you're down to 1.
Oh, fuck.
Which is a precarious one because you need to get it exact because anything over that and you're bust.
I know.
So you're in probably the worst position.
Oh, no.
Now, Lewis, you're on 5. And just to make you aware, Nick Nemeth has an 8-3, so he's actually got a really good record for being Dolph Ziggler on that one. Lewis, 5. Now, if you go over 5, that means you're bust, so you'll need to throw again.
5. So if someone was to wrestle every year from 2018, that would make them... That would check me out. 2018. I'm going to guess that this man's maybe missed 1 year, and I'm going to say Sami Zayn.
Okay, let me see. This is where I need to use Control F if it'll work. Sami Zayn, he is in the same bracket as Randy Savage, MVP, Rikishi, Rob Van Dam,
8.
Ron Simmons, the Warlord.
Definitely.
Lewis, congratulations. He has 5 Survivor Series.
Come on. I was going to say...
appearances.
Who was I going to say? I was going to say Alexa Bliss.
Oh, Alexa, right, let's see.
That was my first goal, but I changed it right at the end. I thought, I don't know how much the women are valued. She could have been on 1.
She was in 3. Alexa Bliss on 3. So, well done, Lewis.
I bet you this would have won it, mate, as well, Chris.
Who are you going to go for?
Ronda Rousey.
2. 2-0.
2-0.
So, you'd have been bust. Congratulations, Lewis. You win Survivor Series darts. You're the last man standing. You are the War Games General. You are the heat sheet winner of Survivor Series darts for this week's episode. So well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Sound out one guy clapping. So yeah, that has been our November. Yeah, we're still in November. I know it's 28th. Our November edition of the Heat Sheet. Our front page headline was "There Will Be Bloodline" in reference to the upcoming Survivor Series weekend. Our back page headline was "Get Your Arse in Full Gear" after AEW's pay-per-view last weekend and the general malaise around the company. Page 3 was Starks and Tony's storm in a teacup because of the rumours surrounding Ricky Starks not getting TV time and Tony Storm possibly retiring the Timeless character. But we can agree that the main event was the real icing on the cake there with Lewis winning with that Sami Zayn shaped arrow into
Sami Zayn.
Into that. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for joining me, lads. It's been a while, but it's been a pleasure doing this evening. I'm not going to make any promises that we'll get anything done before Christmas, but if we do, you will be the first to know. Give us a follow on Instagram and YouTube. Just look up the Heat Sheet Podcast. We're also on Spotify as well, but no prick ever listens to us on Spotify, so YouTube is... I don't know why I'm telling you to watch on YouTube, because you're hearing me saying this, you're probably already watching on YouTube. But yeah, However you enjoy your wrestling over the next wee while, whenever they start to feel the heat, keep your eyes on the sheet. Cheerio, fellas.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving indeed. Happy Turkey Day, lads. Hello, Heat Seekers. It's the Heat Sheet.